I'm Jack, and welcome back, because today I'm going to give you guys a non-spoiler review for another one of my most anticipated movies of the year that I had the chance to go see twice over the past couple of days. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It is once again directed by Ryan Coogler, who returns once again as the director of a Black Panther movie, and it stars Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Angela Bassett, Winston Duke, Danai Gurira, Tenoch Huerta, and many more. And with that said, let's get started. The movie follows Shuri, Okoye, Queen Ramonda, and M'Baku, and the Dora Milaje as they strive to protect their nation from intervening world powers and enemies in the wake of King T'Challa's death. As the Wakandans try to move forward and embrace the next chapter of Wakanda, they must team up with allies like Nakia and Everett Ross, and so as forge a new path for the kingdom as they deal with the underwater kingdom of Telecon led by Namor. This movie was dealt a really hard hand because they had the original script with Chadwick Boseman written, and it was already good to go for filming, and then the world shut down with the pandemic, and to make matters worse, Chadwick Boseman passed away from his 4-year battle of colon cancer, and that was a devastating loss. It affected everybody in the whole world, especially me as somebody who loved him as an actor and as King T'Challa. I was devastated with his passing, and it led me for being so devastated and curious as to what could they do with the sequel, because they had an idea and now they have to rework it, and so as all the things happening with production, I was very curious for what Ryan Coogler and the crew have in store with this sequel to Black Panther. And I really love what the trailers have given me, and so as what I am seeing, especially that it's really going to focus on tributing Chadwick and the character of T'Challa while trying to move forward with these characters. And I was really liking what I was seeing, and so as being really excited for it the closer we got to release. So now that I got the chance to see the movie twice over the past couple of days, I loved Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It is an emotionally satisfying sequel, and I really love what it does with these characters. And so as focusing on grief and trauma with our characters and how they try to move forward with the loss of King T'Challa. And I just loved what Ryan Coogler and the crew were able to pull off with the movie. I could not imagine how hard it must have been for Ryan Coogler and the crew to create this movie and make it the way that it is with all the things that were working against them, because they pulled it off fantastically with this movie. I think it's marvelously well directed by Ryan Coogler. He once again expands Wakanda and adds some more lore into the MCU and the Black Panther mythology. And I really love how he takes some of the criticisms from that first movie and he improves upon it here, where he shoots the action sequences really well, and the visual effects themselves look fantastic. Some of the best looking visual effects in the MCU to date. And I really love how he focuses on characters and grief rather than the jokes and the spectacle and all the stuff that most people would usually come for an MCU movie. But he really decides to make a movie about grief and how that affects people and seeing them cope with loss. And it's very well done here. All the performances here across the board are fantastic, especially Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda. She is phenomenal in this movie. She's been doing this for a very long time, and she's delivered some phenomenal line delivery in this movie. There are scenes that had me in awe of how fantastic she was in this movie. And you may have heard this from other people, but I definitely feel like this must have secured her an Oscar nomination, because she is truly a powerhouse in this movie. She clearly delivered her A game in this movie, as did everybody else, especially Letitia Wright, who goes from being a supporting character in the first movie to being a main character, and she is fantastic. We see a much more darker and mature side of Shuri in this movie compared to the lighthearted nature of her character in the first movie, and I really like how Ryan Coogler handles the character of Shuri. And Letitia Wright, once again, fantastic. She really delivers another terrific performance as Shuri, and I really liked the character arc that she goes on in this movie. It's very satisfying and emotionally powerful, and so is just every one of these actors, because everybody all across the board does a really good job, especially Danai Gurira as Okoye, Winston Duke as M'Baku, Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia, even newcomers like Dominique Thorne as Ironheart, who was really fun to watch in this movie, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her Ironheart show next year on Disney+. And even another standout of this movie, Tenoch Huerta as Namor. He is amazing. Ryan Coogler has done a really good job with villains in the MCU. He's done it with Killmonger, Claw, and now Namor is another character to be thrown in the mix. He is fantastic. He's a character where I understood why he does what he does and why he wants to succeed at his goal. And he's not a villain just for the sake of being a villain. And I really like how Namor as a character can go from being pretty charismatic and friendly, but then he's also easily able to go from being villainous and pretty dark real quick. And I really love Tenoch's performance as his character. I think he's just fantastic casting, and I love how he plays off of all these characters and how everybody deals with the arrival of Namor and the kingdom of Tenoch. I think that side of the movie is very well done, especially as we're seeing Wakanda take on Tenoch, and so is all these intervening world powers after the death of King T'Challa. That side of the movie is done really well, and I loved all the cast members in this movie where they definitely got more screen time and more roles here that are much bigger than that of the first movie, where we really see the secondary characters in the first movie become main characters. And I think this movie does a terrific job at doing all these characters justice in this movie, where we get logical next steps, clear character motivations, and I really connected with everybody in this movie, and every one of them was utilized well, where I couldn't have had this movie without a lot of these characters. And to continue what I said earlier, the visual effects and cinematography and action sequences, I think, are even better than that of the first movie. It seems like Ryan Coogler really did improvements on them in this movie. The action sequences, I think, are a lot better in this movie. I think the visual effects look a lot better in this movie, because while I love the first Black Panther, one of my issues with it was that the action sequences were not some of the best in the MCU, and the visual effects at times, mainly the third act, doesn't look complete. They look a lot better in this movie. It truly feels like it's some of the best visual effects ever put into an MCU movie. It looks well shot. It really feels expensive for the budget of this movie. And I really like how the movie was able to use that budget wisely with the visuals and the cinematography. It's very colorful, vibrant. The costumes look fantastic, and I have no doubt they might get another nomination for costuming because they look really great. And so as you're seeing how vibrant and beautiful a lot of these shots and colors are, where it doesn't look dull, it's a very beautiful movie to look at on screen. And I really like how they were able to craft this movie in the way that it does, where this is a very unique addition to the MCU, and I'm happy we now have a movie like this as the 30th installment in this franchise. It's a really well-shot movie. It's well-crafted from a visual cinematography standpoint, and the action sequences have definitely been a step up from the first movie. And Ryan Coogler, once again, directed this movie well with the characters and directing and the camera work and how he frames and shoots all these things. He does a really good job with this movie, and with all the stuff he had to deal with in making this movie, I think he really pulled it off by the end. The underwater sequences here involving Namor and the underwater nation of Tenoch is incredible. It's very well shot. It feels like they actually filmed it underwater and not slap CGI over it to make it look like it. And so as the visuals making it even better, and I love how we explore the underwater nation. It's a very great addition to the MCU and expanding the universe further. And these underwater scenes here really reminds me of the fact that we're getting another movie that's set underwater with blue people coming out in a month. I wonder what that movie is. But in all seriousness, though, I think this movie does a really great job, and it feels like it's a nice movie to have at this time, especially because we get Avatar: The Way of Water next month, which is probably going to take it a step further. So I really hope that this means for movies in the future, we're going to get more movies to actually be filmed underwater in the way this movie was, because I think there's a lot of potential in that department for the future. And I love how the underwater nation of Tenoch looks for this movie and how Ryan Coogler and the crew are able to bring it to life. I also appreciated that this movie really focuses a lot on our characters mourning the death of King T'Challa. And I like that this movie, you have the spectacle, but it focuses a lot on the smaller, intimate moments and the relationships between our characters and makes them feel very real, authentic, beautiful to watch on screen. And so as just how the movie and the cast and crew were able to tribute Chadwick Boseman, because there were a lot of scenes in this movie that really made me emotional. It hit me in the feels, and I was crying. There were moments in this movie that really had tears coming down my eyes, and it left me very sad watching this movie because I loved Chadwick and the character of T'Challa, and I thought the movie does a beautiful job of paying respects to him, and so as make this movie a fulfilling tribute to the actor's legacy and for the nation of Wakanda and the Black Panther mythology. I thought this movie does a really wonderful job attributing him, and it's a very nice way to honor the actor while trying to embrace the future of the Black Panther characters with this movie. And I really felt emotional on the inside and on the outside, and I think this movie does a really beautiful job of tributing him. Another big thing about this movie is who is the next Black Panther in the end? I thought it was satisfying who picks up the mantle of Black Panther, especially with the marketing being very obscure. You don't know exactly who it's going to be, even though I had my predictions on who was going to pick up the mantle. And I was very satisfied with how we got to see who picks up the mantle. It's organic. It didn't feel like it came out of nowhere. It made sense with the story that was being told, and the performances made it even better. And so when we got to see who the next Black Panther is, I was incredibly satisfied with how the crew were able to pull this off. I was able to buy into it. It made sense for the character and the story. And I was very happy by the end of the movie with who picks up the Black Panther mantle. And so after this movie, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with that character as Black Panther moving forward, because I really liked that throughout marketing, they did not reveal who was going to pick up the mantle. And when we got the movie, I was very happy with who picks up the mantle. However, while I'm happy that it's a lot longer than Thor Love and Thunder and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I do think that the runtime could have been trimmed a little bit. There's one storyline between two characters that I will not name, but it feels like it didn't have as much of an important role to be in this story. It just drags the pacing a little bit to where I'm never bored watching this movie in any shape or form, but it doesn't add very much to the movie. And you look back at it in the end with all the stuff that played out, and I could have done without that storyline because it doesn't really add anything to the story, nor does it have any connection with what's happening with Wakanda and Talokan. And so I could have done without the storyline, and the movie could have been trimmed a little bit, but with all the struggles Ryan Coogler and the crew had to endure while making this movie, I was absolutely satisfied with Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's a beautiful and worthy follow-up to the first movie. It does some things better in this movie, and so as having great character developments, great storylines, and so as beautiful visual effects and an emotionally fulfilling tribute to Chadwick Boseman, and so as pushing the characters of Black Panther forward, making a very exciting and beautiful sequel to the movie. And it remains one of the best comic book movies of the decade so far, probably my favorite MCU movie of the year, and one of the best projects in Phase 4, up there with Spider-Man No Way Home, and it caps off Phase 4 on a really high note. And I loved this movie and what Ryan Coogler was able to pull off with this movie, because it is a very worthy sequel with a lot of high highs, and I was very satisfied with the movie we got in the end. So in conclusion, I'm going to give Black Panther Wakanda Forever an A. Also, a reminder that you must stay for that mid-credits scene. It's beautiful, it's heartfelt. I won't spoil what it is, but I think if you're going to go see this movie, you have to stay for it. It's worth your time, and it's a very touching way for this movie to conclude. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What are your thoughts on it? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Stay tuned. I have a spoiler review planned for this movie. I have quite a lot to say about it in detail. I cannot wait to give you guys that video very soon. And stay tuned for some upcoming videos that I have planned for the future of this channel. It'll be very exciting, and I hope you guys will stick around for that. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. So please go do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And stay tuned for more.